Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never walked into marriage expecting fireworks every night. I knew life would settle into routines, responsibilities, quiet evenings, work, bills, schedules, exhaustion. I believed love could live there too, steady and reliable. My name is James. I'm 42, and until recently, I thought I understood commitment. Elizabeth and I have been married for 12 years. Not perfect years, but honest ones. At least, that's what I told myself. When we met, she was sharp, warm, effortlessly confident. I wasn't flashy, but I was consistent. I built a career, paid my bills, showed up. She said she liked that stability. She said it made her feel safe. We were close in the early years, in ways that mattered. Long talks at night, shared jokes, quiet touches that said more than words. Intimacy wasn't just physical, it was presence. Somewhere around year 7, that presence thinned. It wasn't sudden. It never is. Elizabeth came home later, phone always in hand. Conversations shortened. Laughter faded. When I reached for her, she stiffened, like my touch surprised her. I told myself she was tired. Stress, work pressure, life piling up. So I adjusted. I cooked more, listened more, asked less. I thought effort would fix distance. I was wrong. The bedroom became quiet before it became empty. Kisses turned brief, then rare. Hugs became polite. I tried to talk once, carefully. I told her I missed us. She smiled without warmth and said she wasn't in the mood lately. Lately stretched into months. I wasn't demanding passion. I just wanted to feel wanted. Each rejection landed heavier than the last. Not angry rejections, but quiet dismissals. The kind that makes you doubt your place. Eventually, I stopped initiating. Not to punish her, but to protect myself. Hope hurts when it keeps getting denied. Still, I stayed. I believed endurance meant love. I kept showing up the way I was taught to. I paid the mortgage, fixed what broke, asked about her day. I told myself this was marriage. Then one Thursday night, everything narrowed to a sentence. Elizabeth sat on the couch, scrolling, a crime show murmuring. I sat beside her, not touching. After the episode, I asked if we could talk. She sighed like I was an inconvenience. What now? I said I felt lonely. I said I missed closeness. She didn't hesitate. I have no desire for intimacy. Not tonight. Not ever. Not with you. The words landed clean and final, like a door locking. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. Something inside me went quiet instead. It wasn't about sex anymore. It was about erasure. I realized I'd been shrinking to stay acceptable. Sitting there, invisible beside my own wife. If this story feels familiar, you're not alone. If this resonates, tap like so it reaches others who need it. Elizabeth turned back to her screen. I stood up slowly. No threats, no speeches, just clarity. I walked to the bedroom and packed a bag. Clothes, charger, toothbrush. My hands were steady. When I left the room, she didn't ask where I was going. Outside, the night air felt sharp and honest. I sat in my car, engine off, breathing. For the first time in years, the weight lifted. I wasn't angry. I was awake. Have you ever stayed too long hoping effort would be enough? Comment below if you've ever mistaken patience for progress. I drove to a friend's place and slept on his couch. When he asked what happened, I kept it simple. She doesn't want me. I'm done convincing. That night, I understood something painful. Neglect doesn't need shouting to destroy you. It works quietly, daily, until you disappear. I promised myself I wouldn't vanish anymore. The next morning came with an unfamiliar calm. No apologies waiting. No missed calls. Just space. I hadn't stopped loving Elizabeth. I'd stopped abandoning myself. Some choices end loudly. Others end in silence. If you believe self-respect matters, this story will keep unfolding. Type clarity in the comments if you believe silence can be an answer. I didn't know what Elizabeth would do next. I only knew what I would no longer accept. The hardest part wasn't leaving. It was realizing I should have listened sooner. Nothing dramatic had happened, yet everything had changed. And this was only the beginning. The consequences would arrive soon, whether of us was ready. The following days were an odd mixture of relief and disbelief. Elizabeth hadn't called. She hadn't texted. For someone who had once thrived on constant connection, the absence was deafening. I busied myself at work, organizing spreadsheets, meetings, pretending the calm was normal. But each time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened. Then it came, a message from her, short, clipped, deliberate, all communication through my lawyer. That was it. No explanation, no discussion. 15 years, reduced to formalities. The text felt cold enough to freeze time. I read it over and over, not out of hope, but to confirm reality. Then practicality kicked in. I had to adjust. Credit cards, shared subscriptions, access to accounts. Everything had to reflect her decision. I canceled the card she held as supplementary, log out of shared streaming services, and secured my accounts. No dramatics, just methodical compliance. In my head, I kept repeating one truth. She chose this path. I would honor it calmly, deliberately. If you've ever had to draw a boundary like this, hit like so others can see the importance of clarity. Within 72 hours, her lawyer was calling. The tone was sharp, urgent, but I remained composed. I explained the immediate steps I had taken, citing legal precedents and shared responsibilities. Every word precise, every action documented. Elizabeth's lawyer demanded temporary support, exclusive use of the marital home, financial updates. I responded systematically, clearly, in alignment with her instructions. The power dynamics had shifted, but I was no longer reactive. Share this story with someone who needs to understand why calm clarity outweighs impulsive rage. What surprised me more than the legal demands was the reaction of her friends. Her closest confidant called, voice tinged with accusation. You cut her off. She's struggling. I listened, unflustered, explained that Elizabeth herself had drawn the boundary, demanded lawyers only, and I had followed it precisely. You're the bad guy for obeying her, one friend implied. For a moment, I marveled at the irony. Compliance, respect, clarity, these had become controversial. I didn't argue. I stayed factual. I stayed measured. Comment respect. If you believe following boundaries is an act of strength. Days passed, and the quiet became our new reality. Elizabeth was adjusting to the life she had chosen, navigated without the immediate presence I had been. I navigated mine, discovering the subtle freedoms I'd lost while trying to preserve a fading bond. Mornings were lighter, evenings less oppressive. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't brood. Instead, I allowed the truth to settle in its own rhythm. A marriage ended not with violence, not with betrayal, but with a quiet, firm declaration. The shock was in its subtlety. The lesson unmistakable. I reflected often on what this experience taught me about expectations, patience, and self-worth. The small moments, the times I tolerated rejection, the silent sacrifices, taught me endurance but also revealed my limits. I realized love, when one-sided, is less sustaining than respect. And respect, once withheld for too long, demanded clarity. Comment below with a word that describes how you've handled unreciprocated effort in relationships. Weeks later, as I walked past the home we once shared, a strange sense of closure settled in. There were no confrontations, no public spectacle, only a recognition that sometimes the most powerful actions are quiet, measured, deliberate. My focus had shifted from pleading for recognition, from attempting to mend what was no longer mine, to rebuilding, recalibrating, and reclaiming the space and energy I had lost. I was no longer shrinking to fit a narrative that wasn't mine. If you want to see more stories like this, comment your thoughts and subscribe for real-life lessons on self-respect and clarity. Elizabeth's absence became an unspoken companion, a mirror reflecting the parts of me I had neglected. Each day, I grew more certain of what I would no longer tolerate. Each day, the shock of her abrupt withdrawal faded into quiet empowerment. And through it all, one truth stood clear. Endings don't always announce themselves with fireworks. Sometimes they whisper, and when they do, the wisest move is to listen, act, and honor your own worth. By the end, what had begun as rejection, silence, and shock had transformed into clarity, focus, and measured independence. The story of Elizabeth and me was no longer about pain or resentment. It was about understanding limits, asserting them, and moving forward with integrity and control. Life didn't stop at the doors she closed. It expanded in directions I had long forgotten existed. And for the first time in years, I was awake, alert, and fully myself.